Bishop William Porter, the first bishop of Chicago, invited the Mercies under the leadership of Francis Xavier Ward to Chicago when Chicago was less than 10 years old.
He knew that these were women who had a passion for helping and for making a difference. I doubt that he had a real clear sense of what they might do for him, but I think he knew that they could provide real assistance in a very concrete way.
And it's a remarkable story because their life must have been very hard. I mean, there were 5 sisters that came with Francis Ward, and I believe the majority of them, I think it was 4 out of the 5, were dead within 5 years from cholera.
The oldest was the 24-year-old, and that was Agatha O'Brien. But she came, and these 5 sisters actually turned Chicago upside down in the ways that were needed.
They had ingenuity, energy, and perseverance without limits. And that spirit is what made them come to Chicago and establish the first hospital in Chicago, establish St. Xavier Academy, establish the first orphanage in Chicago, all within the first 10 years they were here.
The establishment of St. Xavier Academy followed directly from the ideas of Mother Macaulay.
Catherine Macaulay's vision was that women their status needed to be raised. They needed to know how to get employment so that they could care for their children and themselves. And so her idea was that starting academies for women would be the way that we could get women educated, and then they would become independent, and they would be able to have employment and have a dignity.
The Academy has really embraced this model of female education that's popular for well-to-do women, young women. You know, you've got a good education, solid, in terms of scholastics, but you also learn the finer things of life, languages. You're sewing, and how to be a good companion in life.
Well, the sisters came to Chicago in the 1840s, and Chicago was really a brand new city.
The Irish influx into the city distinctively shaped the Academy's early history.
They were the first, with the first wave of Irish immigrants, but the dominant culture was Protestant. They were only a generation away from the Founding Fathers. And so it was really pioneer territory for Catholics, for Irish, and certainly for women in leadership positions.
The tensions between Catholics and Protestants shaped the Academy's early history.
It drew from both Protestant and Catholic families. That was always the concern that Protestants would have, that the sisters would want to convert them to Catholicism. They were careful not to do that because they could lose students that way.
Unfortunately, in 1871, Chicago took a huge step back in development when the Great Chicago Fire swept the city. Many lives, homes, businesses, and schools were lost during this time. This included St. Xavier Academy.
The Chicago Fire, was for many, many different places, institutions, families. Everyone was impacted by it greatly.
Well, the Chicago Fire was obviously a devastating event, not only for the city of Chicago, but certainly for St. Xavier Academy and for the sisters. They temporarily relocated to Mercy Hospital down the road, which was not burned, but they couldn't stay there. So they had a couple of options. Amazingly, they had had the foresight in the 1850s to acquire a farm, which was at the distant place from the city, 49th and Cottage Grove, which would later become their home.